The Speaker of the House, it is Philip Gunn. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, Paul. Good morning. Great to be with you.
Thank you for coming in. Look,
Yes,
some movement yesterday. Tell me, where are we? Let's talk specifically about, and the bill number is HB 1231.
Yes, sir.
How about that? I remember that. It's the income tax bill. It was dead. It was alive. It's dead. It's alive. Where is it? What is it? Where is it now?
Well, the income tax bill is 1439.
Oh, it's 1439.
The outdoor stewardship bill is 1231. That's right.
Well, let's talk about the stewardship bill first of all. Is it?
As far as I know, it's moving along. That is something that's come back to the House. I know it was on our calendar yesterday. Scott Bounds has worked very hard on that. It's a good thing. It basically just says we're going to take a portion of sales tax on sporting goods and devote that to the use of outdoor stuff. And it just dedicates, obviously, sportsmen, people who buy fishing rods and shotguns and stuff. They obviously have demonstrated an interest in outdoor activities, and we're just taking a portion of the sales tax from those items alone and devoting it to conservation and outdoor things. It's a great bill. It's a good bill. It has come back to our chamber. Yeah. It's probably headed to conference, but hopefully we'll get that one passed.
Use the same maneuver on both of those bills to keep them alive?
No, sir. I think we passed 1231 and sent it over to the Senate, and then I think the public pressure and call for the bill was so great that they kept it alive, and I think they put their own language in it and sent it back, but I think it's going to conference now. And I may be wrong on that. I'm not fully
according to yesterday, we had Senator Kevin Blackwell on, and he basically said it is going to be in conference. I think tomorrow. Or today. I'm sure. I think it was today or tomorrow as far as conference is concerned.
Very good.
But I mean, in talking with him, and I asked, where are the gives and takes for the Senate? Didn't seem like there were a lot of give and takes, but for this to go to conference, there've got to be some give and takes. If the diversion is a no-go for the Senate, is it a no-go for the House?
I think we're going to be pretty strong on our position that the House bill be taken. I think the House bill is a good bill.
You mean everything is the diversion and everything else?
Yes, sir. Now, Scott Bounds and Bill Kincaid, I think, are the two that are negotiating that bill, but I trust their judgment. But they feel very strongly that the bill as originally drafted is a good bill, and it needs to go forward in that form.
So there will be no leeway or no give and take as far as the private.
I will leave that up to them, but they're the ones that are championing that bill, and I trust their judgment on that.
When we talk about the bill that the Senate and the lieutenant governors put forth, it has no money in it. So you're basically going back to the House and Senate every year. How do you do that as far as making long-term plans?
Well, and it becomes very difficult to make long-term plans. That's the reason the bill is drafted, creates a dedicated source of revenue for this industry, and that's a good thing.
I'm not saying that to push one bill to the other, but if you're going to be using matching funds and you're going to be working,
have a source of revenue.
You're going to have a source of revenue, and that doesn't happen overnight. You've got long term. Anybody who's filled out an RFP understands that.
That's right.
So, if that is not acceptable, then the bill is dead. If it is dead, is there a possibility of an initiative or a referendum or something else?
There's always that possibility. I think on this particular issue with the outdoor stewardship fund that we would probably just champion it again next year.
You won't need a study committee on this one.
Don't need a study committee. Don't need a study committee on income tax.
Well, I mean, the study committee is the thing that the Senate is talking about on the income tax. So let's roll over on that one and talk about it. But by the way, as far as the 1231 deadline on that one's toward the end of the session?
Yes, sir. Yeah, deadline for conference, sending bills to conferences, I'm not sure, sometime next week.
As far as you're concerned in the House, are we still on schedule to exit at the end of this month or 1st of April?
Well, we would obviously we always try to push to get done as quickly as possible. I would hope we would be done by the end of the month, yeah.
Before we get to the income tax, because we got another segment here, of course, let's talk about the Medicaid. Where are we with that?
I've encouraged my chairman to continue to negotiate with the Senate chairman. The bills died last week, but we passed a resolution in the House that revives both bills and sent that to the Senate. They could easily pass it as well, and basically just puts us back to where we were last Thursday. Both bills are on the table. They continue to negotiate, continue to work, and hopefully we'll come to a resolution.
What would you like to see on that? Because yesterday, again, Kevin Blackwell was in. He's the author of that Medicaid bill. I think he said the additional add-ons that he had was an additional expense of about $19 million.
Okay. Well, I know Joey Hood on my side has worked very hard and is really dedicated to what he is doing on our end. I think the two of them were negotiating fairly well and were fairly close on an agreement. The time just ran out, and they didn't get it done. So we have now revived that opportunity for them to continue their negotiations, and I'm hopeful and under the impression that they are close to resolving that.
When you start looking at, and by the way, Joey was supposed to be on today, and
I'm second string for him.
Yeah, well,
I'm filling in for him.
I'm sure Joey hears, Chairman Hood hears that and said, "Well, that's pretty good." But he will be on Tuesday, and hopefully by Tuesday we may have some solution to this problem as far as Medicaid's concerned. But in the things that the Senate put in there, are any of those a no-go, a no starter for you?
I haven't had an opportunity to talk to the chairman about what the Senate has put in there. I do know that he had some concerns about some of the things that they had put in there, and that was the reason they were continuing to negotiate. I can't identify what those are right now, but I do know that he had some concerns about some things they had put in there, and that's why they were continuing to talk. That's why the bill hadn't been finalized yet.
When you start looking at gas prices out there, $2.59 on the way in, I saw this morning, personal income tax back to the people of the state of Mississippi would probably break them even.
I don't know about that, but it certainly would be helpful. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, you think about this, at $1 a gallon more expense. You guys, $20 every time you fill up more than you would spend before.
That's true.
You're talking about the middle class and trying to help the people.
It just highlights the need and the importance of doing the income tax and giving them money back into their pocket. It puts more disposable money in the pockets of our citizens. It needs to be done. It needs to be done now. I want to make a statement, Paul, that it's kind of the umbrella under which this entire discussion needs to take place. The elimination of the income tax is a good thing. It helps our citizens. It puts more money back into their pockets, gives them more disposable income. It helps the gross domestic product. It helps our economy. It is conservative. Anyone who claims to be a conservative ought to be working to help make this happen, not looking for ways to keep it from happening. And so there is every reason for us to do that and to do it now.
Have you had conversations with the governor? Have you had conversations with the leadership in the Senate, to more so the Senate leadership, to any of their concerns as far as some of the economists that you've brought forth who are proponents of this?
Paul, you can look at, and I'm sure you've seen many of the reports that have come out. In my opinion, every conservative policy think tank out there that has weighed in on this thing has given it a thumbs up, have given it an endorsement, have said this is something that needs to be done. I am, in fact, only aware of one outfit that has given it a negative, and that was an incredibly left-wing group.
Yeah, I understand
for those people who I place credibility in, every one of them, the Art Laffer, who was the economist for Ronald Reagan, Stephen Moore, the economist for Donald Trump, Center for Public Policy, Americans for Prosperity, Empower. The Ole Miss Economist Report was 36 pages long. The State Economist Report. Every one of those has been positive. The benefits far outweigh any negatives, and there's no reason not to do this now.
Has some of the resistance from the Senate been the safeguards that have been put in? Because nobody's told me about any problems with the safeguards. They all think they're pretty good. I do not believe one policy reason has been presented to me as to why this should not go forward. Other than they just hadn't had a chance to read it.
And again, is that a reason to let this stand in the way of of the citizens getting tax relief.
Some of the
to me,
economists,
that is not a valid reason to not do tax relief now. It's been out there for a month, Paul. It's not that hard to understand. These economists and others, every group we just mentioned has read it, weighed in on it, given it a positive. There's no reason we can't do it now.
I want to ask you when we come back, because they're talking about the GDP, how much this would add to your domain, your district and area?
And no, sir, I think we were very fortunate, thank the Lord.
Yeah.
It appears to me that most of the hard weather went to the east over to Alabama. I know we did have one tornado down around Wayne County, and that was, no personal injuries.
Yeah.
I think there was property damage, and I'm not aware this morning of anything else that happened around the state.
The shameless plug on this one, Mallory White, Director of the External Affairs for MEMA, will be joining us coming up at 8:37 to give us some damage assessment. That is at 8:37. We'll find
clearly
out.
She's the one to ask. So,
your smell returned as far as COVID's concerned?
yes, sir, I did. I still have some lingering tastes that are not quite right. About 5 different things, soft drinks for one. And of course, that's great because I don't drink a lot of soft drinks.
We've heard that from more people that they're not sure it's going to be ever coming back.
It is, I had it in July, and I'm almost, 9 months away.
Your second shot's when?
I don't really know. Coming up in a week or two.
Perez, you said yours is tomorrow, or is it today? All right, let's get back to this. One other thing here. The pseudoephedrine was signed by the governor. Your thoughts on that one? Because we had the sheriffs in this week, and they were not happy about it. Most of the medical community and most of the law enforcement community were not happy about this.
Yeah, I understand that, but those in the legislature who handled that, obviously it passed House and Senate, and the governor signed it. I think it's going to be fine.
It's one of those things that we'll know. If we have an uptick in meth labs, then we'll know that you guys screwed up.
You're right. But from everything that I was told, I believe that's going to be okay.
You have faith in the NPLEX system to handle that?
Yes, sir.
Do you know when it will become law? Is it immediately, or is it fiscal year?
I don't know. But I think usually those things go into effect July 1.
Yeah, unless it's some kind of emergency.
Most every bill we sign or pass is effective July 1, unless we say that it's effective upon passage.
All right, so this bill, as far as the 1439, is going to be argued all the way through the end of the session, basically, for the most part.
Well, this is the number one issue for the House of Representatives. We passed that thing twice. We actually had more votes yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess, when we passed it, than we did the first time. And so we modified it. I think I sent you the changes that we did on Tuesday. We put an amendment in there that took care of some of the concerns. Again, it's another example of how we're willing to work to change any concerns that people have.
What were those concerns?
Well, there were 2 groups, the farmers and the manufacturers, who indicated they could not pass along the increase in costs to the end user. So we said, fine, we'll take them out, and we did. So the farmers and
farm equipment was taken out.
We took them back to where they were originally taxed. And as you and I have talked on this show before, farmers and manufacturers and others already receive a preferential tax rate lower than what the citizens pay. So we just took those 2 groups back to where they were originally, and that eliminated their concern.
One of the things that I've heard from some farmers too on this, and I didn't realize this, but it's a new age of farming. The equipment is unbelievably expensive.
Right.
But whether it's in construction or in farming, the vast majority of those people require new acquisitions through leasing and don't even buy.
They don't buy, generally, is my understanding.
So it's not really that much of a concern, really, for most of them.
Right.
So is that going to mess up your numbers as far as their in numbers?
It doesn't mess up the numbers, but we did have to adjust some of the numbers. As you know, our initial plan was to create a $50,000 exemption immediately. That would cover about 57% of the people of the state. That means 57% of the income taxpayers would immediately pay no income tax. By taking those 2 groups out, we had to lower the number from 50,000 to 40,000 threshold. That covers about right at 50%, 48% of Mississippians would immediately pay no income tax. So our initial plan was a 50,000 per individual, 100,000 per married couple exemption. Now it's 40,000, 80,000, but it still provides an income tax relief to half of the income taxpayers in the state, and then in 5 years it goes up to the next threshold.
Well, those at 40,000 going to need it a little bit more than those at 50,000. So
you're right, and you mentioned when we were on the break about the teachers, Paul. I wish that this message would resonate with the teachers. For some reason, I believe they have been misled and to what this would do. There's a teacher pay raise out there right now in the legislature that gives them a $1,000 pay raise. Under our plan, they not only get the $1,000 teacher pay raise, they get the income tax that they're currently paying to the state of Mississippi back into their pockets. Yeah. So a teacher making $40,000 a year, let's just use that. The average teacher salary is, I think, $44,000. So let's just use $40,000 because it's easier math. To give that teacher at $40,000 an income tax elimination means $1,500 stays in that teacher's pocket immediately. So not only would they get the $1,000 that we're giving them on the teacher pay raise, they get the $1,500. So rather than a $1,000 teacher pay raise, they're getting, in my mind, a $2,500. And guess what? That's not just this year. They get the same $1,500 next year, and the next, and the next, and the next. It's like $1,500 every year from now on. Why would they not be for that? And yet they're being told by some of the purported education advocates that this is a bad bill. That's just deceitful. That's just not telling the truth.
Do you have a number on here, the $1,500? I know we did with the 50,000 category. How much money they'd have to go out and spend as far as sales tax to negate that?
Yes, sir. We
that $1,500 would equate
to that $1,500. I think they would have to spend $61,000
a year to
eat up that $1,500 that we're giving them back. And here again, people need to realize not everything they spend their money on is subject to a sales tax. Gasoline is not subject to a sales tax. It's an excise tax. Your mortgage, your insurance. Those are not subject to a sales tax. So people have to sit down at the kitchen table at night and say, what do I spend money on that's subject to a sales tax? And most of that's going to be groceries. Well, guess what? We're cutting your grocery tax in half, too.
That hadn't changed as far as the grocery tax is concerned. By the way, will that grocery tax move in the same time, or would it be graduated in?
The plan initially cuts the grocery tax right now is 7%. We would immediately cut that to 4.5%, and then we phase it out. I think in year 4 and year 5 at 0.5%, where we eventually end at 3.5%. So we're cutting it in half eventually. Immediately it goes to 4.5%, and then it phases out, I think, in year 5 at 3.5%.
What's been the most frustrating part of this as far as working with the Senate in trying to get this accomplished?
I have yet to be presented with a policy reason as to why this is not a good plan.
From anybody?
I do not recall anybody telling me why, from a policy standpoint, this plan doesn't work. And again, we go back to all the groups that have weighed in on this. The economists who've written the reports, the other groups that we mentioned in the previous segment, all of whom have studied it and looked at it, have given it a thumbs up, given it a positive report and said, this is something that needs to happen. So I understand there may be some other reasons, but not policy reasons. And
or are you saying there are political reasons or political reasons, not policy reasons?
Sometimes that comes into play. Sometimes there are political reasons, not policy reasons. And I think we have to go back to my original statement, and that is elimination of an income tax is a good thing. We need to embrace that reality, and we need to be working to make that happen rather than trying to throw up roadblocks as to why it shouldn't happen.
Have the economists all been on the same page, around the same ballpark as far as the amount of money that would return as far as GDP is concerned?
I don't recall what the state economist report said, but I do recall what the Ole Miss economists have said, and that is about $371 million
back into the economy
a year. Right now, our current tax structure is costing us $371 million a year. And under what they told us, if we do this plan, it's returning $371 million back into the economy, which is the equivalent of putting $8,000 into the pocket of a family of four at no cost to the state.
That would have to be revised, wouldn't it, as far as the $40,000
probably
category?
would. Yeah, that was done on the previous amount.
Can I pick your brain on where we are as far as liquor is concerned when we come back, final segment?
Okay, sure.
Well, a liquor moment or two. With the side of the border and everything else, just got this in. New jobless claims under the Biden administration above the economist's projections. $770,000. I'm sorry, 770,000 people. New jobless claims increased to 770,000 above the economist's predictions under the Biden administration. His favorability ratings are going down rather quickly. Back with the Speaker of the House. Let's talk about real quick in this short amount of time here. The liquor bill. There are a couple still, one or two still alive, as far as you know?
Oh, well, Paul, I'm a Baptist. I'm not an expert on liquor.
Yeah, but you're the Speaker of the House, so let's talk about the economy, the economic side of liquor. So, as far as you know.
Yes, every year liquor is an active part of the legislative discussions, and I know our Ways and Means chairman and Hank Zuber, who is from the coast, they monitor that pretty quickly. I will say the warehouse, the ABC warehouse, Alcohol Beverage Control Warehouse, is a source of great attention right now because of certain, as I understand, just a lot of obsolete things going on out there. So they're trying to address that and fix that.
You think that's what is? I guess what I'm saying is the bill, and I haven't seen the bill. The bill that is still alive, it addresses the private-public partnership.
There's always discussions of a privatization or some sort of private-public partnership.
So you think we will address this as far as one way or the other?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do, and I think they're working hard to make that happen this session. I think it's got to be addressed.
I did note that the home delivery was a bill that died. I think that one would.
Yes, that's always a subject of great discussion too. You're talking about being able to deliver wine to a house.
Well, no, this one was. I think this one was basically just you can call your local package store and have it like you could food.
Just like food delivered to your door. Yeah.
Any of the other bills?
The concerns there is always who's making the call and who's there to receive it. Is it an adult? Is it a teenager? We don't want that.
Or does the food delivery guy show up, or is he in a ditch somewhere in the nearby town?
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
It depends on how good your liquor was that you happen to order. Any of the other bills that have died that of concern to you that you think need to be brought back up next year?
Oh, I'm sure there are, Paul. Yeah. Again, my focus has been on income tax. I think there's nothing more important than that this session. To me, it is the issue. There is nothing more important than this. And our citizens, again, the umbrella is people need this relief. And if we are conservatives and we want to do something that's transformative for the state of Mississippi, this is it. I don't think there's a bigger issue in my entire political career than income tax elimination. And I have told that to my caucus. I've told that to my House. I've made that statement everywhere I've gone, is that we will never do anything more to help the citizens of this state bigger than this.
Long term, when you talk to the economists, they say in the years to come, as far as the brain drain to have the kids stay here, and as far as business in our state, to bring in folks from, whether it's Amazon or Google or the aeronautics industry, shipbuilding, whatever it happens to be, you're going to have to be able to compete in the South as far as the other states that are also addressing the situation.
That is correct. And as I've said before, I've had business people contact me to say, we're trying to recruit young people to come to work for us. But if they can go to another state, to stay here right now, they suffer 5% tax on their income. And if we can eliminate that puts us on a competitive scale with other states. Because right now, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana all have an income tax, and their sales tax is higher than ours, and they have an income tax.
And some of those states are addressing this. They are also beginning to broach the question about dropping it.
About the income tax?
Yeah.
I don't know if they are or not. I know Tennessee does not have an income tax.
Right.
And one of my House members who lives in northeast Mississippi, who has a business, tells us that he has to compete with the state of Tennessee when it comes to recruiting talent. And if this again, and to go to some of the proposals have been made, we're just going to phase this out under growth. We've done the math. I think I sent it to you last night, Paul. If you just do a plan that just says we're just going to shave it off at 0.5% a year on the growth, it's like 2051 before we ever get rid of the income tax. And if it's 2.5% growth, it's like 2085. We're all going to be dead. Yeah. And young people are not going to come to Mississippi and say, I'm going to move to Mississippi because 30 years from now, they're not going to have an income tax. They want to not have an income tax now. And if we're going to keep these young people here, we got to give some tax relief now.
That's the equivalent of a perpetual study committee, I think.
The perpetual study. We've studied it. Hey, we started 4 years ago studying this. We don't need to study it.
Let me backtrack to 1231, the Wildlife Fund, real quick. One of the things that we did realize that we have a problem with our state parks. Would that be the catalyst? It would help it, but it's not going to solve it, is there?
No, it's not going to solve it, but it's certainly a stream of revenue that could help alleviate some of those problems, yeah.
Sir, I thank you for taking the time to come on.
Thank you.